Welcome to the CEN show, the voice of the world community. This podcast on Wednesdays and Conscious Corner on Mondays with Professor Amin Ra and historian Joe Hembrick are alternative educational resources that's featured weekly and is open to the public. You can join us. I'm about to show you the website and how you can access it. Okay, here's the website. And on Mondays, as you can see, you could join the Zoom meeting right here. And then tonight, you can join the Zoom meeting here. So it's two different shows on Mondays and Wednesdays. Everybody's welcome. I am your host, Rasaki Maskani. And tonight, joining us is Professor Amin Ra. Tonight's guest is Lynda Shorter. The topic is making lives easier and impactful with impactful Black inventions. I met Lynda through Professor Amin Ra, and she became an instant guest provider and a participant of our podcast. Now she's a member of our website team, and she brings a lot of enthusiasm to our organization. Welcome, Ms. Lynda, to our team. How are you? Please tell us about yourself and begin your presentation.
And thank you for saying welcome. Thank you. And as you said, of course, I'm Lynda Shorter, and my daughter Zari is here trying to help me because I'm messing up with the technology. But also tonight, my subject is making lives easier with the impact of Black inventors. I sound a little nervous because I am, but it's very important for me to get over this nervousness because my whole thing is I have to share what I know about Black inventors, share it as much as possible. So thank you for this opportunity for me to even begin sharing. Okay. And I'd like to start off, if I can, please, by a quote by Dr. Maya Angelou. And that is to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. Now, why did I choose that? Because when we talk about Black inventors, that's what they do. And what they have done and continue to do is being a rainbow in someone else's cloud by making their lives easier. And that's when I want to talk to whoever comes on this evening about making your life, my life, and not just people in the United States, but all over the world. Black inventors have done it from the beginning of time, and they continue to do it so today. And so basically, I'm a published author, and I've taken a lot of the information about the Black inventors and put it in books. I've created and this has been over 15 years. We have a summer enrichment program that we do and a host of many other things, but it focuses on Black inventors and inventions that they have done that have impacted people all over the world. And I like to share that every time I get an opportunity to do so. Okay, and in fact, this is going to be open because I'm going to ask questions, but I want some people to talk back to me because I'm learning and growing every day, and I want you to grow with me. Because the whole thing is we have to share this information about Black inventions and Black inventors. So I'd like to start off, first of all, with seeing who's here. And since I see a couple people, I have a quick question to ask everybody who's here. And of course, I've said I've been studying this over 20 years, but is anybody in our audience this evening that is aware of any invention by a Black person that has ever made your life easier? And I'm just going to throw it out there if anybody wants to just take a stab at it for starting.
Okay, I'll start.
Thank you.
The stoplight with the red light and the yellow light and the red light.
Yeah, Morgan.
And you're absolutely right. Thank you for saying that, by Garrett Morgan, the stoplight. And of course, that has made many of our lives easier, the stoplight. Because, and as you were saying, the colors are red, black, and green. And thank you, Professor Rod, that you kind of piggyback what he said about the stoplight. But how many of we know about Garrett Morgan, but there are hundreds and thousands of inventions. And since I was saying making your life easier individually, we can all make our lives easier. In fact, we can start with the word invent. And I've broken it down into acronyms so we can kind of dive into it just a little bit. I say the I in invent is for improvement, is for innovate and individual needs. The N can be for nutrition and needed. The V in invention or invent is the value, the voice, and ballot. The E, entertainment, exercise, and easier. Another N is natural and a novice. And the T in event, tools, toys, transportation, and of course, technology. And that's just some of the things that are acronyms that you can, when you think of the word invent. And you started off about the stoplight. And of course, you know, you're driving down the street as an individual. So let's talk about our first, making life easier as your self-care. Because we said the stoplight, there are many other tons of inventions that I've just put on the screen that are under self-care. For instance, the first thing we see on the right-hand corner is the light bulb. All of us have heard of Thomas Edison, but how many of us know it was a Black man, Lewis Latimer, who invented that filament right inside the light bulb? The bulb. That's why we have lights today. It's all about making lives easier. Now, I said this category I'm starting with is self-care. Now, all of us know this is a bar of soap, but how many of us know that it was George Washington Carver? It was called Lye soap back then. But it's all about making our lives easier. Of course, you better take a bath. And then again, I just have a few items on this screen about self-care. And again, it's still all under making our lives easier. You know, we get home every day and we want to just sit down, getting out of the car. But how many of us know it was a Black man invented the very first folding chair that's making our life easier? Now I live in Florida, and we got cool weather for the first time today, and we had the heat on. But in order to do that, to make our life easier here in Florida this week, we had to go to the thermostat and turn it on. That controls the heating and the air conditioning. And to your point earlier, when you were saying about Garrett Morgan or driving with the stoplight, but how many of us know is a Black woman who's alive today, 92 years old, Dr. Gladys West, has made a lot of us lives easier by inventing the GPS. And then those of us make our lives easier. Of course, we all got to put on clothes every day, but how many of us thought about who actually the first sewing machine that we made these clothes? There was a Black man that invented the first wheel. Of course, he and his partner, who was a woman, but the first sewing machine. And they didn't stop there, because some of us like to just go beyond that and iron our clothes every day to make our lives easier, so we look good. So the very first iron in the ironing board, Sarah Boone. And these are just a few items that I put here on the screen for you. And I've categorized it under self-care, because when you're talking about making your life easier, we got to start with self. Yeah, we all know ourselves, but we got to start doing better a lot with making our lives easier by helping ourselves. In the top left-hand corner, you see a drawing, and this is people, as we sometimes get older, and yes, I'm wearing glasses, but there are a lot of like my aunt last week, she had to have cataract surgery. But how many of us know it was a Black woman who invented the surgery, the laser surgery, the laser instrument for the cataract surgery? And I know I'm kind of sounding bumbling because I'm just getting over the nervousness, but That's how we got cataract surgery today. And again, it's all about making our lives easier. So if someone you know, or maybe yourself, if you need the cataract surgery, go ahead and get it done to make your life easier. And also you see in the background here in the black and white, when we're saying making our life easier, each and every one of us on different levels medically and physically. But no matter if you're a man or a woman, you need to get an exam. But how many of us know it's a black man that invented the X-ray machine? The spectral vision, it's called a spectrometer, that's in the X-ray machine. So everybody, if you haven't, please go see your doctor, your nurse, or any practitioner to get an X-ray. Women, men, everybody. It's all about making your life easier so you can live a lot longer, because we all have too much to do. And I know I'm talking fast, so does anybody have any thoughts of what I've said so far?
Well, let's go to Brother Mashinda.
Hey, good evening. No, I don't. Yeah, I'm just listening. It's very interesting.
Okay, and Brother Mashinda, if I'm going too fast, just stop me a little bit.
No, you're not going too fast at all. I'm keeping up with you. You know, I first thought of Benjamin Banneker. You know, with the Farmer's Almanac. I know that you know
Correct.
that has a lot to do with, of course, when to plant and harvest crops and things
Right.
like that. You know, something that I know I hear Brother Henrik talk about growing a garden. Actually, I'm considering that myself. I have friends of mine that grow different types of greens and things like that. And I said, for the first time that I was going to start doing that, I was going to try to do it for this fall season because there's certain things that you can grow in the fall in the cool seasons. But I think I'm getting a little late start on that, so I'll just prepare for the spring. But there's a guy
Correct.
out here where I'm at in the south. It's a brother that's he's a works for agriculture. Well, he's retired, but he gives a lot of lectures and different seminars on when to grow certain things. It reminds me of a kind of a young, like a kind of a Benjamin Banneker as it relates to like the almanac. He's kind of an expert in you advising all people. A lot of white folks call they rely on his information. And so one day I was at a fair and he was there giving a presentation at the fair. Plus he does an article, he did an article in the newspaper pretty regularly about when it's time to grow certain things. But I like to, mention Benjamin Banneker as a very, very important historical figure. And I'm sure I know he invented other things and did a lot of other great things as well. But anyway, it's very interesting. I appreciate you sharing tonight.
And thank you. And I'm glad you said that too, because and please hang on, because I want to go a little bit further when you said about Benjamin Banneker. So to modernize it today, to bring it to date today. So please make sure you keep your thought with that. And thank you for saying that. And I'm going to just keep on with what he's with self-care and making our lives easier. And I definitely have to mention in the bottom left here, years ago, we didn't call this, and you all see this white thing, but it was called a commode back then. Somebody had invented. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of gross to talk about it, but it is reality. That will make your life easier. I had to mention it. I had to throw it in there because we a lot of times we don't even realize that the toilet that we call it today was invented by a Black man. And I'm going to move on now. We're making our lives easier because I'm here in my kitchen while I'm talking and I'm just looking around. There's so many things in our kitchen that we probably don't even know about that a Black person invented. And many of us do know, but we have to remind ourselves, which is a part of the reason why I do what I do and keep loving I'm doing this and talking about Black inventions, is to share the information and to preserve it. I mentioned earlier that Dr. Gladys West, who invented the GPS, who's 92 years old today, and she's still with us, but we have to preserve this information because many of our inventions have been stolen. People have taken advantage of them. And then you think white folks, but it's been Black people who invented everything you've seen and then a lot more. Like for instance, right here in the kitchen where I was, and a lot of these things you already know or you've seen, but you may have not known they were invented by the Black person. A regular broom, and we've all seen brooms. So the next time you got to sweep up your floor, think a Black person. And the mop. And then these are men, but there are women inventors also, because if you look at the gas stove and also the gas fireplace, the first concept was Alice H. Parker, a Black woman. And then, and Brother Mashenda, when you talked about Benjamin Banneker, and you were talking about agriculture, well, you mentioned agriculture a little bit about him in the almanac also. What I want to talk about today, there is a brother today, he just did the invention in 2020, and it was called the torpedo pods. And so he used the roots of what the almanac was, and he said, well, you know what? We gotta keep with the vegetables and fruits and everything, and these are self-watering planters. And the brother lives in Washington State, but it's a new invention in America, just phenomenal. And again, they're called torpedo pods. His name is Daryl Addison. And then those of us, I mentioned earlier, the sewing machine, but again, we're talking about making our lives easier. And now I don't know how everybody is, but back in my day, we had, when we washed our clothes, we would hang them on the line. But today we have washers and dryers. But the very first clothes dryer was invented, George T. Sampson. Making our lives easier, remember? And then some of us who get stressed out and we need something simple. I'm not telling you to do this, but this is one thing I do because I love it. And I had to throw it in here. The ice cream scooper. Making your life easier. Just go and get you a scoop of chocolate ice cream and put some almonds in it. So we have to thank A.L. Crail, who is another Black man who invented the first ice cream scooper. And again, also in the kitchen, making our lives easier. Like when my daughter comes home every day, the first thing she does is go into the refrigerator. It's like many of us do. But the first refrigerator or the refrigerated truck, today you'll see like the Walmart going with the refrigerated trucks or all these big trucks on the highway. Well, somebody invented that first refrigeration system. It was a Black man. And his name was Frederick McKinley Jones, and you can see it at the bottom of the screen barely, but Frederick McKinley Jones. And also in the kitchen, another one is the, some of you may or may not be used to this or even, but it's back in the day when we made our own biscuits and our old food from scratch. It's a biscuit cutter. And of course, now you get the Hungry Jack biscuits and you just open the can out of the store. But the very first one was invented by a Black person, like many other things that we're putting here, making our lives easier. And also, if you go outside, over here in the left-hand bottom corner, now this has made a lot of our lives easier. We don't do it ourselves, but a street sweeper, especially for people who live in the snowing places and the streets are dirty or they need to, like we had a hurricane here recently in Florida, and they had to have people, street sweepers going down the freeway and clean up where the trees fell in on the road and stuff. But it was a Black man who invented the street sweeper. Now, of course, this one is a little bit fancier than the original one. but L.W. Benjamin got the patent for that one. The street sweeper. Okay, any questions or any comments on this before I go to the next slide?
Professor Ra?
Yeah, appreciate what's been said, if I understand correctly. First of all, I want to say Sante Sana to Lynda for her presentation, and also say she's very modest about her history. She's been a long-time activist throughout the country, really, from Long Beach to Atlanta to Florida. Well known for her work with Long Beach Press. They had a Long Beach newspaper. She worked with the brother that had started that. She operated a bookstore along with her brother, Reginald Muhammad, in Long Beach, a Black bookstore. She's just done a lot of phenomenal things. So she's a phenomenal woman with an in-depth intellect and love of her people. And I really appreciate her gathering this information in the context of a museum of African people that have contributed to the best of us as a people, and to make us more aware of each other and the genius, being a genius as a people in creating things, even though many of the inventions, as she said, but many of the patents were stolen, and other people, even the concepts were stolen. So we really want to thank Lynda for putting this together, and she has a lot more other writings, and this is like a traveling museum, virtual, that others could use to educate young people and educate anyone that want to know about the history of Black contributions to making our lives better. I have some things that I had to learn, because I just thought Blackness was just hating white people and not liking white people, or not liking what white people do. But Blackness is loving our people. And same thing with history. History is not just what you know, it's what you learn from it and how you incorporate it into your life. So I think that what made my life easy, first of all, was a brother named Bob Simmons, who just taught me the awesome responsibility of pursuing education. He used to tell me, if you can hustle out here on the streets, let me see you go hustle a degree in the university. Mm-hmm. And it sort of motivated me to get a college degree, because I was an athlete. I just thought I could just play ball, and I was going to go to the NBA and all of that. But he said, just get the degree, get more out of college than they get out of you. So that made my life a lot easier when I went to school, because then I wanted to study and I wanted to get good grades as I went through college. Then there came Gary Alexander and Bob. They emptied their closets so that I could dress well while I went to school. I had a different outfit for every day for at least 2 months. And then I could mismatch, and it would last long. From shoes to suits, they just laid me out with hand-me-downs, that because they were big men like me. So that made me feel good and made my life easier at school, because I felt like I was one of the best dressed athletes and best dressed students at a university, as far as that was concerned. Then I met Dr. Karenga, and he taught me Kawida philosophy that made my life easy from the standpoint of working with our people, being more tolerant, and looking for the best of them as an African people and what they do good, instead of hating and we ain't gonna do nothing. Our people is our biggest enemy, and if somebody broke in my car, it was a brother, because that's all of that kind of talk. Just focus on the best of us as an African people. Then Kwanzaa, celebration of the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles. Umoja, unity, Ujichakalia, self-determination, Ujamaa, cooperative economic, cooperative working responsibility, Ujima, cooperative economics, NIA, purpose, Kumba, creativity, and Imani, faith, and practice those principles and incorporate them in your life and try to practice it. Will give you make life a lot more easy. You don't get frustrated at what the enemy is doing. You prepare yourself for the enemy of good things, even if some of them come in different colors. You're prepared and conscious. So that helped me a lot as far as getting a philosophy, a way of life. Malcolm X taught me about Black nationalism, the importance of thinking, of voting politically for your interests. And you don't vote, sometimes you have to, it's not the lesser of the evil. It's the ones that most speak towards your interests as far as your opportunities to struggle and continue to struggle. That will allow that, as well as Dr. Ben and so many scholars. Once you read them, as Joe said, Brother Hemrick said, the library is a beautiful place to go and visit those that transitioned but left their mark on their books. And they leave you with an enormous amount of philosophy. Dr. Francis Creswell Sr., But there were also doctors that William Hale, who did the first open heart operation, as well as a Tona. They didn't have a last name for him that started inoculations with some type of animal tooth. He was the first one to do that. And it's just so much. When you as Lynda done, went and researched all these people, and I'm pretty sure she has the sources that would be included. Like when Jay Rogers wrote 100 Amazing Facts about Black people with proof.
Right. And Professor Ra, if I can add to something you're saying, excuse me, if I can add something you just said, because I don't want to forget the point. When you started off talking about, all these outfits, all these different things that you, for months, I was like, wow. And that's why it brought me back to my mind about the sewing machine was invented by a Black person. And then you mentioned about basketball, that you used to play basketball. Oh, I wish I would have seen you too. But then again, because there's a lot of sports that, that Black people, they didn't invent the sports, but they did the accessories to the sports to be where they are today. For instance, not basketball, but golf. Like the golf tee, that little thing that holds the ball. It was a Black man who invented the first golf tee, became a millionaire just from that little thing. And then, of course, before we even had the basketball and the golf, way back when I was a child, we had horseshoes that we played with my dad, because it was just a simple little horseshoe, but people made a game out of that.
They call it
Right.
pitching.
So you just brought that to my mind when you were talking about sports, all these things that Black people have invented that has made sports what they are today. So thank you for even saying all of that. Thank you.
All right. That's all I had to say.
Okay, so we had Sandra Henderson wanted to chime in. She raised her hand. Sandra, you want to unmute? Ms. Henderson?
I apologize. Something is wrong with my mute. And then I have noise in the background, so y'all please forgive me for that. And I'd like to thank Professor Amara for that well introduction that he did of Lynda. And I want him to email me what he said about her. I really love that. And also I appreciate Lynda for having the love that she has for the Black community. because the world do need a divine reminder of our contributions that we did in this country. Because sometimes people forget these are global wide, nationwide inventions that's all over the world. And I would love to see her continue this and keep going with it, because you have other Black inventions in other different states that you probably need to connect with and make this a global thing, because these people need to be reminded of our contributions that we did in this country. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And
Before
thank
we
you.
move
And
on,
Sandra, thank
oh, go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna tell her thank you. And when she was saying we need to connect, people globally. And another thing that Black people have invented, the microphone. Because we're sitting here and we don't, with technology, I'm thinking we don't even really need a microphone. And when Sandra said communicate, I thought about it. Yes, there was a Black man who invented the very first microphone here in America. That's why we're able to, when we're speaking on stage, like Professor Rao always speak on stage when he used to do that. We held a microphone, or you put one on your lapel, but we need to think another Black man. And then now we got technology, but before we had the computer, we had to turn on the radio. But it was a Black man who invented the radio also. And those are all on more slides that I have. So the list goes on and on and on. And thank you, Sandra, for what you said too. I like that. What you said is a reminder. That's why I keep doing what I have to do. I have to keep reminding people and preserve the history and share this in everywhere I can, everywhere I go. All right, I'm gonna move on to still making our lives easier.
Ms. Linda,
Yes,
before you move on, let's see if we can, we went to everybody except Brother Hembrick, so we want to give him
Oh,
a
I'm
chance
sorry.
to chime in, and then we'll continue with the
okay,
presentation.
yeah. Yeah,
Brother
I'm getting
Hembrick?
excited.
Yeah, evening. Sorry, tuned in late. I just came in off my walk. It was so hot today. I had to wait till it cooled off, but I got it in. And I don't know if you covered people like Elijah McCoy and Jay Mesling, but to put it in a nutshell, people of African descent invented everything, and a lot of the stuff was stolen from them, like the patents that I heard you mention earlier. But make life easier, I think that's the theme. Jay Messlinger invented the machine that put the top of the shoe and the sole of the shoe together. After that, we still be in sandals or barefoot, one of the two. And Elijah McCoy had so many inventions. I mean, they're too numerous to count. But a lot of the white folks stole a lot of his patents, and they stole so many of them that when the white boy brought the stolen patents to be patented, they say, "Is that the real McCoy?" Talking about Elijah McCoy. That's where that thing got started. The real McCoy, from all the things that was stolen from Elijah McCoy, like with the locomotives and the thing that put the cars together, that clamp. Oh, he had numerous, and I believe he was a slave also at one point. So I just wanted to mention those two brothers. But, to put everything in a nutshell, everything out there, Black people invented stoplight, it's everything. And it just goes to show from that tape I sent a lot of the brothers and sisters months ago about the DNA, how, we have 4 more series of DNA than anybody. We're like 9 and everybody else is like at 5. So it puts us in that category to where our thought processes and all of that are way above the others. I don't mean to be bragging, but it's just fact. That's what they found out from doing this experiment. And once they found it out, they tried to cover it up. But anyway, sorry for tuning in late, and I'm gonna let the sister go on with her presentation. Thanks for
Oh,
allowing me.
no, I'm glad you did tune in. And I would have mentioned Elijah McCoy. I think I have him on here also. But I'm gonna go to the next slide because we're talking about making your life easier. And you were absolutely right. I'm gonna look into that DNA too, because I like that. Healthcare, making your life easier. And the brother did mention about, he said air conditioning because you just came from your walk. And we did mention before, but I'm gonna mention it again about the thermostat. I mentioned the heat here, but now I'm talking about the air conditioning with the thermostat. Invented by another Black person, Frederick McKinley Jones. And again, it went from the thermostat, now it's all the way to refrigerated trucks that you see on the freeway. But it's all about making our life easier. And I had to mention more about healthcare because, you know, our health is your wealth. So I had to bring this back up again with a few other items that Black people invented. Now, I just found this out recently because I've never used it, but I know a lot of people who use cortisone for any aches in your muscles and pains in your body. But Percy L. Sutton and I'm sorry, Percy L. Julian. And the reason him, because on a stamp now, they have his picture. And I was like, wow. And like I said, I know a lot of people who use the cortisone, but how many of us realized it was a Black man invented that? And of course, we mentioned again the light bulb. And here in Florida, like I said, it just got cold today. But in some parts of the world or the United States, it's been raining. Well, the umbrella holder. And again, I'm gonna throw out again about the lye soap because everybody, that's one kind of thing that'll make everybody's life easier. Let's say you take a bath, I mean, you stand next to somebody, you smell good, you look good, and you smell good, that's gonna make your life easier. And I think I mentioned the cataract surgery again with Dr. Patricia Bath down here at the bottom on the left, straight in the middle. It's all about making our life easier. And on another podcast, we talked about Imhotep. And that's why we have a stethoscope here. The invention of the stethoscope, a Black man. And like we go to any health practitioner, they're going to use a stethoscope. When they do the Hippocratic oath, like we mentioned, I think the last one, it all goes back, the emphasis goes back to a Black man or a Black woman. And then here on the second item, shampoo. Now this is a newer bottle, but it was George Washington Carver had invented over 300 products from the peanut, the soybean, or the sweet potato. And the first shampoo here, that was his invention. Of course, it's more fancy now and it's different colors and different shapes and bottles. Okay, any suggestions or questions about these, about the healthcare needs or anything we've covered so far? And I only have a couple more slides because because I want to get through them, and because there's things that you know or be reminded, like Sandra said earlier, or things we may not know that we need to share with our children or just keep reminding ourselves. And we're going to go into the office because a lot of us work from home now, or we go into our office. But I thought these were very important to mention because a lot of things we take for granted. But it's all about helping us and assisting us if we're doing any kind of office work or clerical work. For instance, the stapler, the very first stapler, Ruan Jeter. And then every public building in the country should have one of these, a fire extinguisher. Now that make anybody's life easier. And even in your home, you don't have to be in a public building, it may be in your home, a fire extinguisher. Well, somebody had to invent it. Thomas Martin, and we thank him. And of course, every fire station, a fire truck, they have fire hoses, everything, but the fire extinguishers, everybody. And then again, the first touch tone telephone. Back in the day when we had the rotary dial phones, and now everybody has you may not have a landline, but I guarantee you have a touch tone phone. Dr. Shirley Jackson, thank God for her. And like right now, we're talking, all of us are seeing this Zoom, but the very first personal computer, Mark Dean, who worked for IBM, he received a patent with his team, but he led the team. That's why we can have personal computers in our homes today and in our offices. So we thank God for him. And then some of us get it going to a 2-story, a 3-story building. Some people have them in their house. But how many of us knew that Alexander Miles invented the very first elevator here in America? So thank God for him also. And then with technology changing as it is, and if sometimes it wasn't as easy to have e-fax, we had a regular old-fashioned fax machine. Well, somebody had invented, it was another Black person. Her name was Shirley Jeter. It's not on the screen, but she was actually Ruann Jeter's second or third cousin. And you know, we as Black folks, how we do that, yes. And those of us, I mentioned the computer is easy now to just, tap on your keys. But years ago, some of us used a typewriter. That was the very first typewriter was invented by a Black man, probably about 60 or 70 years ago. But we had to pick one letter at a time. And so those of us who worked in administration, and we didn't have couldn't erase, you had to use white out and everything else. But thank goodness we have PCs today. But the typewriter, and it looks similar to the one on the left here, invented by a Black person then, years ago. And it was excellent and a lot of fun learning it. And the hole puncher is another one. Sheila Jeter, same community there, invented the very first hole puncher. And today's technology is a lot different. But again, we're talking about making your lives easier, or have made our lives easier, and think for this impact of Black people in America and all over the world. Okay, any thoughts on this, comments?
It's just a beautiful
No, he was gonna say something.
presentation from the standpoint of the research that you've done to bring all this beautiful information together. And we need historians and individuals that come up with these discoveries, because so much of our history has been lost, stolen, and astray, as the movies used to say. And for you to bring it back to life, it could only motivate young people and even older people to have more pride. That's what Dr. Carter G. Woodson said. And one of the reasons he wanted to excavate our history and bring it forth is so that we would have more pride and give us more humanity instead of the degradation, deprivation, and victimization that we get from the dominant society, that we didn't do nothing. And a lot of Black people don't think, a lot of them have bitten into that fruit that we haven't done anything and ain't doing things. We're continuously doing things. One of the greatest brain surgeons, Dr. Black, I think he was at Sinai. Some of the best orthopedic people that reconstruct histories and reconstruct knees and hips are Blacks. They excel, just like they excel in sports, they excel in every profession that is brought forth. Even the computer, there's a brother named John Moon, who Apple. He created the double disk drive, and Apple went to recruit him, and he was in Kentucky or somewhere, and they wanted him to move to Simi Valley, and they built a whole building and let him design it, and he put jazz artists all in the pictures and things of this nature. Now kids know about Moon, the football player, the quarterback, but very few of them know about John Moon, the inventor. So you're doing an excellent job of bringing forth this information, and I deeply appreciate the knowledge, and I can just imagine the work that went into it. As Brother Joe Hembrick said, you know, he constantly read and constantly discover other things about our contribution to the forward flow of humanity and making life easy for ourselves and others. Sante Sana.
And thank you for saying that. And in fact, when you just said that, Brother Boone, that's the one I definitely am gonna have to research, because I like that. I've never heard that, but I will be looking at it in the morning, trust me, or 2 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for that. And something else you said, and I'm trying to write all notes because I'm living and learning too, and I'm loving this stuff. So you know, it's a saying, say, well, if your work is work, you're in the wrong kind of work. So this, for me, this is definitely not work. I love this because I learn something all the time, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. I have to share it. Because like you said, you know, we have to continue on. We got to share with others, and we got to save our history, because this is our history. And you know, the professor was saying that you know, people you know, they've stolen not everything, but a lot of our inventors, you know, they're getting older, or they're just tired. So that's why part of my job is to help them when I can, share what they have, you know, made an impact in others' lives. And I'm gonna move on again because to the next slide, because I have all this wonderful information. I just love sharing it. We're going to talk about the transportation. And it's so, I mean, it's vast, because a couple people mentioned the traffic light with Garrett Morgan, but I had an older slide. And the train cupola, I think that was mentioned, that connect the train cars to each other. I mean, Black people have touched everything. Now, this is something that I didn't know, I still don't really know about it, but I work on cars, a spark plug. So I cannot exactly tell you what it does, but it does help the motor run somehow. And so transportation is not just cars and things, but also the horse. I have a picture of a horse here because it was a Black man invented the first saddle. And in order for you to ride comfortable on a horse, William Davis invented the first saddle on a horse. And then let's say, you know, just a regular mom has children and babies. And now you see men who are dads with the babies and granddads and grandmothers, but transportation is in a buggy or a stroller. Well, somebody had invented the very first stroller. There was a man, William H. Richardson, invented the very first stroller in America. So women and men around the country thank him every day, and they don't even realize it. And then you see a helicopter. And I'm still talking about transportation that makes our lives easier. The helicopter, the propeller on the helicopter, invented by a black man, Paul E. Williams. And again, transportation, making it easier with your children, all the way back to the little tricycle. That is transportation for your kids. And the very first bike frame was invented by M.A. Cherry. You can't really see his name on the bottom of the screen, but M.A. Cherry is his name, the first bike screen. So, you know, people now riding bicycles for exercising, to make their lives easier. And people do it for fun. People do it for entertainment. But again, the bottom line is a Black man invented the very first bike frame. And again, I mentioned earlier, Dr. Gladys West, who still lives in Virginia. And I was honored to be able to interview this woman. This lady is remarkable. She invented the first GPS and got the highest honor from the U.S. Navy in 2019 for inventing the GPS that we use in our car or our trucks every single day. And if you ever go on my website, you can see a short video about 4 minutes of Dr. Gladys West speaking. So I had to throw the transportation in here to make our lives easier. Any thoughts on this before I move on?
Sandra's hand is up.
Thank you. Just listening to Professor Amara and you, Lynda, it just brings me back to the very beginning. Ancient Kemet, which is now the world called in Egypt. And what we were inventors all the way back from the beginning. I was reading, because I study the Bible a lot, and we got into a discussion about who wrote the book of Genesis, which was Moses, and how did Moses come about writing the book of Genesis? Because see, ancient Kemet had higher education. That was the place to go to get the proper and very good education. You had different scholars from all over the world would go to ancient Kemet, which now they call it Egypt. And our legacy was stolen from way back then. And that's why I'm embracing what you guys are saying and the knowledge that Professor Amara has, is that this knowledge is so important to know, because the Catholic people, that Vatican got a lot of information about our people that they're hiding from us. If you study, go and look at some of their museums, everybody is Black. The Black, I forgot what they call it. I'm so excited. But everybody is Black. You see a lot of Black faces around that museum that they have painted and different things that they have exhibited. That's just in our DNA. We are a spiritual people. And somehow we've fallen from the throne for where we should be. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but that's why I'm very passionate about what you guys are doing and what you're saying, Lynda. And Lynda, I just want to know, where do you see yourself with this project in the next maybe 5 to 10 years with this?
Okay, so I'm glad you answered. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that, but and that's part of why I try to do this, and I've been doing focus groups because I want people to tell me where can I take this information, because I'm telling you, God has given me all this information. I have to share it, and I have a few avenues that I'm trying to do now to put together. So that's why if anybody has any suggestions, please let me know. How can I share this more information and keep sharing it, because it's not work to me. I'm loving it. And again, I do have different avenues. I've done the books. I have a summer enrichment for the youth. And then I have a mobile unit that I've been working on, so I can take this into places where there are children who are not underprivileged. That's the word they use today. Because they need to get the information. And like Professor Rob was saying, their self-esteem, and I need to use another word, their pride, that was the word you used. It gives them pride. And we have to tell our children. And it's for all children, but our children especially. They need to know who they are. and it makes the pride like that. So thank you for putting that word in my spirit, because I'm gonna use that all the time now. It does. And thank you for asking me that question, but I am working on things, but I like suggestions and thoughts that helps me grow. So if you have anything, I'm always open. My website is up. I have an email address and I have a phone number. I'm always open. America and a Great American Teach-In, that's what it's called. So in fact, next week in November, I have to go to my daughter's school, and her principal, because we've known each other over the years, he wants me just to talk about something Black inventions, geared toward children in school. And some of the inventions like the pencil sharpener and like I mentioned, the fire extinguisher and the desk and things like that, because it's a folding chair. So, so we're gonna just focus just on that. So I love to talk about it, but then I just focus on that one area. So anybody have anything or any thoughts, please let me know. I would love to. And I'm just gonna do one more slide. If there's no other thoughts on this or questions. But I just have to mention it because I have to. We were talking about transportation, but how many of us knew the first automobile in America, the Patterson Greenfield automobile, a Black man? It was in Highland County. In fact, I'm gonna show you the picture of him on the next slide. There he is. C.R. Patterson and Sons was the very first car in America. People, a lot of times we think it was Ford and all these other folks, but no, it was this Black man right here, he and his sons. They ended up selling part of their company because they couldn't get the patents right and all of this. So they partnered with or tried to collaborate with this white company, and the rest is history. But I just wanted to show the very first car in America, a Black man and his sons. So yes, we have done everything and we continue to do everything. Like one of my friends today said they had to take their clothes to the dry cleaning. How many of us know that the first dry cleaners was invented by the whole concept of dry cleaning was invented by a Black man? So it wasn't just in the 1800s, the early 1900s. I'm talking about today. So that's what anything on the automobiles or any transportation or anything I have said today?
Well, I can go through the panel again.
Oh, yes,
So,
please.
So Brother Machinda.
I can see it.
Okay, well, are you finished sharing the screen, Lynda? Is that it, or you have any
Oh,
other?
no, that was it. I was just,
No more slides you want to show?
no, it was just my information of what I have. You want me to let everybody go first?
Well, I'm saying if you have more to share, you can share, but if not, I
Oh,
can.
no, I was just gonna wrap it up.
Okay,
I'll
go ahead.
Okay, one more. Oh, I'm sorry, the sports and entertainment. I had to throw that in. I discussed that a little bit earlier about the radio, and I did not mention the blimp. And now that things are kind of calming down, you got football season again. And if you look up in the sky, you're gonna probably see one of those blimps that's entertainment purposes only. And some people have taken it a whole nother level and do pay for it, for a marriage proposal or something. But it was a Black man John Pickerman. And it's called the airship. That's how it was actually the patent airship, but now they call it a blimp. And I mentioned the golf tee, and I mentioned the microphone. And to the right, a lot of children like these today, and adults, the 3D glasses, if you go back into the movie theater. And I would be remiss if I did not mention Lonnie Johnson, who lives in Atlanta, Georgia now, who just won it was over $3 million he got from Hasbro Toy Company, because he invented the Super Soaker, like the toy water gun, but they had not given him the royalties for it. Took him all those years, but he did get it about in 2017, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and the next one is fashion. I have to mention this because the brother mentioned about Jan Mansell with the shoes. And then Professor Rob was saying how he did different outfits every day for a whole month. I'm like, wow, he had some serious clothes. But that was right here, this first sewing machine. It didn't look like quite like this, but it was a Black man who invented the very first sewing machine. And then I mentioned already the dry cleaning by Thomas Jennings to the left over here. And the first brush, excuse me.
Excuse me, Linda, I had took the, I thought you were done sharing the screen, so I took it off.
Oh, okay.
But we still can hear, you know, the
Okay, all right,
names
then
and
the
everything.
brush and everybody knows Madam C.J. Walker was the first millionaire, Black millionaire woman in America. But how many of us know it was a Black man who actually was her partner, and it was his idea for the straightening comb. And she actually did the perm. And now today, modernized that, we have the curling irons now that Black women use all over the country, and white women. But it was a Black woman who invented the very first curling iron, or a flat iron is what they call it also. And I wish you could see these pictures, but I had to, my technology, and I messed up the screen. But that was it, and
Okay. Yeah.
that's basically all I had, except something very important, more household things that make your life easier. The toilet paper holder. I mentioned the commode already, but the toilet paper holder was the patent on that was a Black woman, Mary Davison Kenner. And then we did not mention the clock by Benjamin Banneker. Yeah, keeping your time. That's one of the most important things that'll make your life easier. Keeping up with your time, with the clock. And of course, the list goes on and on. But everybody just make sure we just still always know that Black history is 365 days every year. And I'm so, making our lives easier who have made it, Black inventors. And two little quick ones I have to mention, because we're gonna be in our houses tonight or tomorrow. If you have a keychain, if you have your keys on a key, or your keys on a keychain, think of Black man, F.J. Loudon. That makes your life easier when you can find your keys. And then some of us have alarms on our house or in our homes. Mary Britton Brown and her husband invented the very first alarm system in America. Now we all have a lot of us have home alarms in our home, in our offices, or wherever we work. But next time you set an alarm, when you're leaving the house, think of Black person. When you find your keychains or put your keys on the key, think of Black person. And even when you turn that doorknob walking outside the door of your house, somebody had invented, Osborne Dorsey, it was his name, who invented the first doorknob. And I guarantee you, every house you go to in America, or every business, anywhere, you're gonna go through a doorknob. But somebody had to invent it. And it goes on. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, we all have these cell phones, but it was the gamma rays in the cell phone that was invented by Henry T. Sampson. That's why you have a cell phone today that you can use. And the last thing I just said that while we can see each other on the computer is fiber optics. His name is Dr. Thomas Mensa. That's why you can see me and I can see you on a computer today. Another Black man. And I am ending with that.
Okay, well, we're gonna go through the panel once and see if anybody have any questions or comments, and then we can conclude. Okay, Brother Mashinda, I don't know if you went to, okay, Brother Hemrick.
No, I don't have any more comments. I appreciate it, sister. But you know, like I stated earlier, everything that was invented, we invented it. That credit or somebody stole it. From draws to soap to you know, people of African descent put the thoughts together for it. So appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Okay,
And
Sandra.
next time when we have Benjamin Banneker next time.
Okay. Miss Sandra.
Awesome job. Thank you so much, Linda and Professor Amara. Thank you.
Okay, Professor Ron.
Yeah, I appreciate what's been said, if I understand correctly. Again, I want to say a sign, which is many thanks to Lynda for the excellent presentation. And I know that, you know, African people have created a lot. Other people have created things too, but theirs didn't get stolen and misrepresented like many of us. Many of our historians dig deep into Egypt. I think I sent you this material about finding women in tombs with makeup on, going all the way back to before the Common Era, not the Christian era, but the Common Era. We call BC the Common Era, before the Common Era. I sent you movies of magazines, Lynda, of those contributions. We've made a lot of contributions that people have taught us that we didn't do anything but be enslaved by white folk. Now that it's called displaced people. Some laws in Florida and in the state, you know, but I just wanted to make sure that we don't take nothing from the Native American. We don't take nothing from the Chinese. We don't take nothing from the Indians. We don't take nothing from other people of color and of the world, and even some Caucasian. That's just being honest. But the reason what makes Lynda's research important is that the people, when we grew up, we weren't taught these things. And if we were taught them, we was told that somebody else did it. And it's just beautiful the way she's laid it out. And she's going to continue to do her research and her work. And if you discover some information that she can use in her work, make sure you send it to her, because she will appreciate it and she will incorporate it and also give you credit for helping her find it. When we look at John D. Jackson's book, Introduction to African Civilization, John Henry Clark writes the introduction. And in the introduction, he says, if it wasn't for the blowgun that the Africans have, you wouldn't have guns today. They used it for hunting. Europeans used it for hunting people, but they used it for food, a blowgun. If it wasn't for the first machine, as John Henry Clark said, was learn how to control fire. If it wasn't for fire, you wouldn't have microwaves today.
Yeah.
So it's an evolutionary aspect of history, of why history is not what was, it's also what is. You understand? And we have to keep that understanding too. It's the foundation of all understanding. It may be the Saratoga chip that's outlined in the Black Book, created by a brother. You wouldn't have potato chip.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you go into not only what was, but we have to teach it like this is,
Mhm.
and then it becomes more relevant to today. That's about it, Rashiki, for me. Sante.
Thanks, Professor Ra. Lynda, this is wonderful information. I'm glad you're a part of our team, and we're going to keep giving all this good information that we can, as long as we're here. I appreciate you very much so. And so we're gonna end. Professor Ra,
Yeah.
any last words, Lynda, before we go?
Oh, no, just thank you for letting me get it out. I'm ready, want to do it again, though.
Okay,
Next
yeah.
time I just more organized, but I like that. Thank
No,
you.
you did just fine, and we're gonna keep doing it. You're doing wonderful. So, Professor Ra, do we have anybody coming up for next Monday?
Yeah, I'm gonna call. It'd be the Black Lives Matter or Crenshaw Subway with Damian Goodman Monday. And if not, we got so much community thing, the elections coming up, we may go over the propositions that's relevant to Black people in California and the importance of the national elections to us. Because people, I'm not happy, but we as a people, I had to learn the hard way. Politics affects our lives.
Yeah, it does.
You know, and so we must begin to put some focus on that.
Yeah.
Power is the pursuit of power and the maintenance and preservation of power. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely want to. Yeah, I want to hear about some of the initiatives and everything. That'll be good.
All right.
Okay, thanks a lot. So next Wednesday we have Chris Shepard as our guest, and he's going to talk about Job Corps.
Okay, oh, yes, I like that.
Yeah, so that'll be excellent
Yeah,
information.
before, right?
He was on with DeAnthony Langston. He came on with DeAnthony, so he's going to talk about that in depth. So this has been great, and we're gonna keep doing it, you guys. Excellent. Thanks, Sandra, for coming, and thanks everybody else, Brother Machinda, Brother Hembrick, Professor Ra.
Yeah.
And come on, keep coming back. All right, so each one teach
Now
one.
you want everybody to get potato. You got everybody mind on potato chips now, at least mine.
Okay. All right. Well, each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Everybody have a good evening. Miss Lynda,
And you do,
stay,
and thank
please.
you all.